Hello, I'm April. I am a psychotherapist by trade. I'm also the creator of the Love and Loss Project and the Relationship Reset Program. And I'm going to share with you some of the key questions that my partner and I have been going through to really just give the previous years its dues. I know from a lot of people, 2018 has been a hard year for a lot of people out there, and myself included. As much as if you've been following me on Instagram, you've probably noticed I've done a whole lot of travel. I've had a whole lot of epic highs, but I've also had one of my hardest years that I've had really since I lost my little girl. So that says a lot. And so, even though part of me was really glad to see this chapter end and a new chapter begin as we move into the next year, I also felt that it was important to really just give the previous years its dues and to really just kind of step back and reflect on what I've learned and how that's shaped and changed both me and my relationship in many ways. So, the questions that I'm going to be guiding you through here are things that you can do either on your own or with your partner. And this can be a really great way. When I did this with my partner, I was shocked actually at how powerful and actually healing this really was to do together. So, if you have someone who's willing to do this with you, then please grab a hold of them. And I'm going to guide you through some of the questions that have been most useful to me and my partner in looking at what 2018 meant for us and what we're letting go of as we move into 2019. So, get your journal. Pause this if you need to get a pen or a cup of tea or do anything else, but I'm going to spend the next few minutes just guiding you through this. So, my first question for you is, what were the highlights? What were the standout moments? And that doesn't necessarily mean the things that were awesome. It might also include some of the things that were just big and noteworthy or difficult. But what were the highlights of the last year? And I'm going to nudge you a little bit to just really zoom the lens way back. Because while this might be something like a promotion or a project that went well at work, this could also be something like a healing conversation that happened with somebody who means a lot to you. Or this could be, a shift in your relationship in some way or form. So, what were some of the key things that stood out to you about the past year? Press pause if you want to write that out. My second question for you is, and this one comes from Gala Darling, who does some incredible work and has a great New Year's thing that she goes through. So some of the questions I'm using are from her this year. What are you glad to say goodbye to? Some of that might come up a little bit easier for you. What are you glad to say goodbye to? And what I encourage you to also think about is, what are you going to decide to say goodbye to? So maybe that is a negative self-attack that you've been saying to yourself in the back of your head somewhere. Maybe that is something that you have been judging yourself about or feeling guilty about, or some kind of negative story that you've been telling yourself about what these maybe more difficult experiences have been that you've been through this year. What is one self-attacking thought that you want to let go of? And what else are you glad to say goodbye to this year? The next question is, how are you different this year? How are you different this time right now than you were this time 1 year ago? What's changed for you? Maybe that's a shift in your perspective. Maybe that's a shift in your view on different things. Which brings me to the next question, which is, what is one mistake that you've made? Maybe that's something in your relationships. Maybe that's something in some other area of your life. But what is one regret or one hard lesson you've learned? My next question is, who came through for you? Who showed up for you? Who had your back? And I know that this can also be a bit surprising, because sometimes the people that we really expect to be there for us are not the people who are really able or willing or accessible to show up. So when you just think back over the last year, who's really been there for you? And what are you proud of? What are you proud of that you maybe have not fully given yourself enough credit for, or that you did not really stop and acknowledge as much as you maybe need to and deserve to? What are you proud of? Maybe that's the fact that you have just survived and got through some of the difficult things that happened for you this year. Maybe that's how you've moved through some of the challenges that you've been dealt. Maybe that's some of the things that you've done, some of the ways that you've shown up for other people, some of the work that you've created, maybe some of those brave steps that could just use a little bit more acknowledgement right now. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is really just share some of this with your partner. Share what those lessons are. Share one thing that you feel like was a mistake that happened in your relationship, and one thing that you learned from that. And then the next thing that I did was I really looked at, instead of getting wrapped up in too much of this specific goal or this specific goal, and especially when we've gone through difficult times in our life, that just feels way too out of reach. But instead, what I want to encourage you to think about is, what is one word that you want the next year to be about for you? So for me, my word this year is light. And I came up with that word because it really just captures basically every other goal that I would be interested in tapping into. So for me, what this represents is I'm wanting to continue to be and even dial up the amount of light and positive contribution that I put into my community in different ways, that I put into my online community in different ways. I'm wanting to be more positive and kind of just clean up the vibe of just some of those places that I might have been getting negative or given myself permission to almost just be a little bit cranky sometimes, and instead leaning into that light. I also want to use that as my barometer of how I make decisions. So what that looks like for me is really just knowing that the right decision is not something that we have to overthink. The right decision is always just the one that feels lighter. And I wanted to change the way that I go into my work life. I have a habit and a pattern of almost feeling like I have to work really, 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 really hard for something to be valuable. And I know that that's really out of alignment with truly just following the inspiration and trusting that that's going to take me good places and create good things. And I don't have to overwork for that all the time. So I want my work to also be about light and to feel light. So when you think about your word this year, what are you craving more of in your world? What do you want your relationship to be about? Whether that's with a partner or just the friends, people around you, what is it that you want to bring into a room when you enter? And if you've gone through a difficult loss, how could you also use that word to honor the person that you lost and to really carry them with you into this next year as well, by some form of that commitment of how you're going to live in their honor? And for me, that also captures that word light. You've probably seen, possibly if you've been following me for a while, this little tattoo that is to represent light. Because for me, when I lost my little girl, what I was aware of is that I wanted to carry her light with me. And this can get hard because we can get really far away from that. So this is why I love these checkpoints of these times a year, this time of year, when we do just kind of step back, review, and reflect. So feel free to just go back over this video again, pause where you need to, and you can even just email me and let me know, or DM me on Instagram, and let me know what stood out most to you as you work through these questions. Because I think that this can be an opportunity to just really have a bit of closure, give a bit of respect where it's due to this past year, step into a little more self-forgiveness, and cut ties with the parts of this last year that no longer serve you so that you can make room for more good to enter and make room to step into the life and who you need to be this year. So I hope you found that helpful. I'll talk to you later.